Hi guys, hope you're doing well. And once again, I have an idioms lesson, ESL class, idioms lesson for you. So let me jump right in. Printed them out here again. So number one is time is money. Time is money. And that one's pretty easy to understand, I think. Time is valuable. So when somebody's using your time and you're not getting paid for it, if your boss is making you work a lot of overtime, and you're not getting paid, well, time is money. You should be paid. Sometimes a boss might say to you, we're taking too long on this project. Time is money. The time we're working on this project, the extra time, we could be making money from someone else, getting paid the same. So time is money. The next one is number two, having the time of one's life. It means just having one of the greatest times ever, one of your best times ever. So when we went skiing that one time, that was the time of our lives. We were having the time of our life. And so it just means someone's having a great time, one of the best times ever for them. Excuse me. Number three, on the tip of my tongue. Of course, your tongue is your tongue. The tip is the very end of your tongue. So when you say, oh, it's on the tip of my tongue, it means I can almost remember and speak the answer, but I can't. And so, when sometimes you're watching a movie and you see an actress and you say, oh, who is that actress? What's her name again? Oh, I can see it. I can almost remember it, but not quite. It's on the tip of my tongue. It's in the end of my tongue. I can almost speak the words and let them out of my mouth, but not quite, because I can't quite remember. It's on the tip of my tongue. And one of the great things about the internet is you can Google anyone and anything these days and find out. So that's caused a lot of comfort for people in this area. Tip the scales at is number four. To tip the scales at, number four, tip the scales at. And this just means how much does something weigh. Of course, you have your bathroom scale and you step on that. And scales comes from the old-fashioned scales in the market where, you'd have a weight on one side and then maybe the meat on the other, and you'd see how much it weighed in the scales, the balances. So to tip the scales means how much does it weigh. So I tip the scale. Well, let's not get into that. But, it means how much do you weigh if you tip the scales at something. Toe the line, number five, toe the line, or sometimes toe the mark. That means to follow the rules, to get in line, to obey. So in the military, they'll say, put your toes, the front of your feet, your toes and your feet, these are your fingers, but on your foot, your toes, put them on the line. So toe the line means obey, get in line, and do the right thing, follow the rules is toeing the line. The fifth one, or sixth one, excuse me, tongue in cheek, tongue in cheek. And this is when someone says something, but they're joking. They don't really mean it. And so if somebody says something tongue in cheek, they might be teasing you a little bit, or they might, they don't mean it seriously. So, maybe, Richard Branson says he'll fly you to the moon. It's only $2 million. And so you look at your spouse and say, hey, maybe we should do that. And of course, you're speaking tongue in cheek. Richard Branson, he'll fly you to the moon for $2 million. And what they don't tell you is it's $20 million to come back. No, I made that up. But anyway, so tongue in cheek, I looked up on the internet because I wasn't sure exactly where it came from. But the explanation I saw is when you put your tongue in your cheek, it kind of makes you wink, like you're joking, like, I'm not really serious. So that might be where it comes from, speaking tongue in cheek. This next one's pretty easy. Number seven, too good to be true. Too good to be true. And this can kind of have a couple different meanings. If somebody, let's say somebody brings a brand new Porsche, beautiful car, brand new, and says, hey, I'll sell this to you for $500. You'd be pretty suspicious, right? Is this car stolen? It's too good to be true. In other words, it's too good a deal to be real. There's something wrong with this. Too good to be true. But it can have another meaning, this too good to be true also, that when something's so good for you, you can't believe it. It's like you're dreaming. Let's say you play the lottery and you win $700 million, and you go, oh, I can't believe this. It's too good to be true. It can't be real because it's so good. All right, the next one, number 8. I wouldn't be surprised if some of you guys have this one in your own languages. Too many cooks spoil the soup, or too many cooks spoil the broth. The broth is that part of the soup, which is the liquid part. So it means the same thing. In other words, if you have too many people leading things, it doesn't go well. There's another expression, too many chiefs and not enough Indians. That there's too many leaders. So, if you have a project at work and there are 3 bosses in charge, probably nobody's in charge, right? They're all telling you different things, and so it doesn't work. It spoils the soup when there are too many cooks. So. Next one, number 9. Too many irons in the fire. Too many irons in the fire. And this comes from the days of the blacksmith. So the blacksmith was the guy who would have a fire, and they put iron in that, and he'd make horseshoes. He'd bang on the anvil with the hammer. And he'd make horseshoes, or he'd make metal things. That was the blacksmith, he was called. Probably because he was all covered with soot and black, I would imagine. But to have too many irons in the fire, the irons, he put the pieces of iron or metal in the fire to heat them up so that they could work on different things. But if you had too many there, they might melt, they'd get ruined. Or you'd pull one out and you'd pull another one out, and they'd cool off and freeze in place before you could work on them. So it's having too many things to do at once, too many projects going at once. So you're too busy to do anything well. You're doing too many things at once is what it means. To have too many irons in the fire. All right, the next one, number 10. To your heart's content. The word content can mean happiness. So if you're content, it means you're happy, you're satisfied. So if somebody says you can eat to your heart's content, it means you can eat as much as you want till you're happy. That's always good news. So eat to your heart's content until you're happy, basically. Your heart's happy. And so that's what that one means. Number 11, to toot your own horn or to blow your own horn. This one comes from the Bible, from the New Testament, something Jesus said, and we've talked about this one before, but it means don't brag or boast about yourself, your accomplishments. So Jesus said, if you're going to give money to the church, if you're going to drop the money in the offering box, before you do it, don't go, do. Don't toot or blow your own horn. Don't draw attention to yourself and show everybody how great you are. Or if you're going to pray, Jesus said, before you pray, don't look around and see who's watching. Go, do. So everybody sees you, right? So it means to boast or to brag about yourself or your own accomplishments. So don't toot your own horn. It says in the book of Proverbs in the Old Testament that let another's tongue praise you and not your own. In other words, if you're doing a good job, other people will notice and they'll say you're doing a good job. You don't have to pat yourself on the back, right? So that's where that comes from. Well, the next one, we've talked about this one as well. Off the top of my head, number 12, off the top of my head. That means without, if you ask me a question, I'll say off the top of my head. It means the first idea off my head, off the top, without thinking about it, without going down and thinking about it, but the first paper off my head, my first response is this. And so off the top of my head, without giving something much thought, my initial thought, my first reaction. And so if you say, Alex, when is this coronavirus quarantine going to end? I'd say, well, off the top of my head, in a few weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. I don't know if that's right, but that's my initial guess. Hope I'm right or sooner. All right. And then number 15, oh, I'm sorry, skipped some, didn't I? 13, at the top of my lungs, or at the top of my voice. And at the top of my lungs just means I'm shouting as loudly as possible. In other words, I'm using the top volume of my lungs, the top volume of my voice. So if your kids come in, Mom, I'm home, and you say, okay, you don't have to tell me at the top of your lungs or at the top of your voice. You can just tell me. You don't have to yell it, right? As kids are wont to do. So when you say something at the top of your lungs, you're yelling or you're shouting, or at the top of your voice. And then 14, on top of the world. That means you're feeling great. I feel on top of the world. Like, here's the world, and I'm at the very top. You know, things are going great. So I'm very happy. I'm on top of the world. Another expression that's kind of close is I'm over the moon. Like I jumped over the moon because I was so happy and excited. So you'd be dead, but actually, if you did that. All right, next one, number 15, on top. And on top just means you'll come out on top. It means you're a winner, you're victorious. So let's say you're investing in the market right now, in a few weeks it bounces back and you make a lot of money. You say, well, I came out on top of that one, I won that one. And another related expression is top dog. Two dogs are fighting, like Oscar, if you saw that. And one dog ends up on top, he wins. So that's the top dog. Over the top is the next one. That's number 16, over the top. And over the top means it's too much. It's excessive, exceeds the goal. So, and this comes, I think, from, you know, if you have a glass and you pour water into it, and you pour too much, it goes over the top, right? It's not a good thing. It's too much. And so let's say that you're talking politics with some friend, and pretty soon they're standing up on their couch and they're yelling, oh, they're so mad. And you're driving home with your friend, you say, well, that was over the top, right? That was too much. And I can see getting a little upset, but that was, you know, over the top, too much. Because the water was coming over the glass, right? So sometimes too over the top can mean like making too big a deal of something. So, you know, well, let's say that, you know, somebody's selling Girl Scout cookies, and again, they stand up on the table and they're saying how important this is, that this is life and death. This is the most important thing ever. You say, well, that was a bit over the top. It's good to sell Girl Scout cookies to help the Girl Scouts, but it's not the most important thing in the world. It's not curing cancer or the coronavirus or something. It's over the top. So it can mean too much, basically. The next one's kind of obvious, number 17, from top to bottom. That means the whole thing completely in every detail. So if your wife says, we're going to clean this house today from top to bottom, well, you probably want to go fishing. But it means, you know, we're going to start at the ceiling, we're going to work our way down, we're going to completely clean the house from top to bottom, every aspect of it, from top to bottom. And so if your boss says, I want you to go over this document from top to bottom, it means I want you to look at it very carefully and check every detail from top to bottom. All right, there's one more here. To toss one's hat into the ring. 18, to toss one's hat into the ring. And I looked this up online, but this comes from boxing. It basically means, this expression is usually, almost always used with politics or an election, that I'm going to toss my hat in the ring means I'm going to be a candidate. I'm going to compete for this office or this position. And so you'll very often around election times or when they're choosing candidates, you know, Joe Biden has chosen to toss his hat into the ring. It means he's going to join the candidates. He's going to be one of the candidates. And this comes from boxing, that in the old days, 1800s, the ring is where the circle, well, back then it must have been a circle, but now it's a square, of course. Square ring, they call it. But you would throw your hat into the ring, to say that you wanted to challenge the person who was in there to a fight. You wanted to take them on. So that's where it comes from, to toss your hat into the ring. All right, well, that's it for today. So I hope that's helpful. And I guess one good thing of recording these, you can go over it again and see if you missed anything or go over it. But at some point, as I said, we will try to do a video conference call. All right, take care.